You're listening to BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good afternoon. It is The Bigger Picture and it's Mira Sivaso. The classical Spanish guitarist Rafael Serrallet is described as a musician who has skillfully combined the knowledge and wisdom of the old guitar maestros with modern-day techniques. Now, performer extraordinaire aside, he also puts his wealth of knowledge and experiences into good use through various pedagogical projects, including leading the Iberian International Music Institute, which fosters and develops music education in Honduras, Nicaragua, Morocco, and Palestine. Having just completed a performance over the weekend here in Kuala Lumpur, he joins me now to share highlights from his illustrious career and his efforts in establishing music education in different parts of the world. Welcome to the show, Rafael.
Thank you very much.
I didn't really think you'd end up getting on the show because we missed you last week.
Yeah, I was quite busy with rehearsals and practicing for the concert for the weekend.
Yes, of course. And how did the concert go?
Very, very well. We're very happy. The conductor, Maestro Edmond Colomer, did a great job with the MPO, which is a great orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
We had full house, 2 shows, so I'm really, really very happy.
Right. Is this the first time you're playing in Malaysia?
Not really. I've played before. I've played for the Classical Guitar Society in Malaysia last year, and this year in June in the MPO in the Chamber Series with a recital by myself. Half of the part was a solo concerto, solo recital, and the other half was with the MPO musicians, chamber musicians.
Okay, so this year you've been here 3 times already?
Yeah.
3 times?
Third time, yes.
Okay, all right, fantastic. You know, Rafael, you were born in Valencia.
Yes.
What is the music and dance landscape like at home?
Well, music is very, very important in where I come from, in Valencia. In the 19th century, the French army brought the wind orchestras, and since then, it has been a very, very, very spread in every little village, the culture of the wind orchestra that we call bandas, and where they play clarinets instead of violins, but basically it's a polyphonic wind orchestra. And every single village has one, even the tiniest one with 300 people. They find 20 or 30 of them that gather once or twice a week to make music together.
Right.
And then
with
they use
the bandas?
Yeah, with the bandas, with the wind instruments.
The bandas, okay.
Yeah, so they use the music in the holidays, in the parades, and of course for many purposes, and for the joy of music, of course. And it's amazing. There are villages where 33% of the population can read and play music and play an instrument.
As compared to literacy in, normal literacy, how would they compare?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's amazing. Spain, although of course is a full literacy country, but in terms of music, there is a phenomenon that really only happens in Valencia, and sometimes there are two different groups of music in the same village where there is a big competition between them, healthy competition that makes the music spread, and we have thousands of musicians all over the world in the best orchestras in the world, mainly wind instrument players.
Right. So are you saying that the music culture in different parts of Spain sort of is very different? I mean, Valencia as compared to Madrid or Barcelona, for example.
Yeah, definitely. We have some other parts of Spain, as for instance, north of Spain or even Catalonia, they have a stronger choral culture.
Okay.
But Valencia developed a very, very, very strong wind instrument bands, wind instrument orchestras. And in southern Spain, for instance, it was the folk pop music, the flamenco. And there are many, many, many different music ways or different ways of understand music in Spain. And this is what makes the Spanish landscape so big and so interesting.
Right. Is there a central group that sort of brings together all the different types of music from Spain?
Well, there are many, many different folk musics in Spain that comes from hundreds of years ago that making folk music, and it's not the same. We have so many different instruments in northern Spain. We have the pipe, the Galician pipe, or we have our own folk instruments, normally wind instruments or percussion, drums, singing in a very different styles, and every part of Spain developed. It's a multicultural also country where you can find, and this is the richness of the country. We have so many different expressions of music and culture, even languages. We spoke 4 different languages in the country.
Right. So coming from a place like Valencia where, the wind instruments are so,
Good
that
question.
dominate, where did you fall into all of this? I mean, you have this fantastic interest in the classical guitar.
Yeah, well, it's a very
Hardly
good
any-
question.
a wind
It's a very
instrument.
good question because the natural way to get involved in music will be through wind instruments. But I don't belong to that world. My parents were immigrants and came to the big city, to Valencia. So where I lived, where I grew up, it wasn't or that music feeling was not that strong, because it was a suburb where most of the people were workers, immigrants coming from other parts of Spain, and they weren't involved in that musical world, Valencian musical world. So it was just by chance that I started to play strumming guitar in the school, and a very old fellow of the school came to give a concert for the students. And I just fell in love because I just was strumming and playing simple chords. And when I saw that guy moving all his fingers through the fingerboard and making me say, wow, that's playing the guitar, not what I do. I want to play. I want to play like that guy. So that's how it started.
Right.
That was the way.
But why the classical guitar as opposed to, contemporary styles like pop?
Well, I really don't know why. There is not I think that because there is an intellectual challenging, and I always have interest in going a little bit farther, not the easier things. And of course, at that time, I was playing and strumming the pop songs that, at my time, the Spanish bands and even Beatles songs that we could hear on the radio. But when I discovered that it could be done something more, that it was not just the simple strumming, the simple chords, and I started to discover these contrapoint and harmony and musical forms, and I started to get into the classical music. You just discover a new world that goes farther and farther, and that's why I chose. But actually, I didn't want to become a professional guitar player. That came by chance afterwards. But I really thought that it was another world, which it is, and once you get in, I fell in love with.
Right. You've had quite a stellar education in music. Can you share who you've studied under?
Yeah, well, my main teachers were Santiago Gras and Jose Tomas, who was a pupil of Andrés Segovia, an assistant in many of his summer courses in around the world. But then I made many master classes with many renowned guitarists like Leo Brouwer, David Russell, Roberto Ucel, Manuel Barrueco, and well, I spent some time in San Diego in California with the famous Romero's family, who are from Spain, that moved there in the 50s, and they made a great career as the famous quartet, the Romeros. And I spent some time with all of them and learning a lot.
Right. Where are you based right now? Is it in Spain or the US?
What
Are
I
you
mean?
based? Are you
Now?
still based in Spain? Yeah.
Well, I'm still based in between Spain and KL.
Okay. I'm happy to know that.
Yeah.
So how have these very influential music teachers, what sort of influence have they had on you?
Every teacher has given me a lesson. Even the bad experiences teach you many things, at least how to avoid or not to do things. So what I have learned, that is the most important teacher in this life is oneself, because you have to get the best of everyone, and you have to compose your own way to play, your own way to make music. And that's, I think, is the best lesson I've ever had, that I have to get the best from everyone, and not only from guitar teachers. I learn very often from many other musicians, from conductors, from piano players, from wind instruments, from violin players, and also from students. Very often students challenge me with performing that I never thought before about, and you have to have a very open mind in order to improve and to learn every day. It's to being a musician is everyday learning and non-stop learning.
So how would you describe your musical identity? I mean, you've developed over all these years. As you said, you are your teacher. At the end of the day. So how would you describe your musical identity?
Well, I don't have a word. I don't have a word for that. But I think that my musical identity, or to be honest, my identity is music. That it will be the opposite. I feel very, very attached to music, and music for me is everything. And my life is attached to music. So it's not, I don't have a musical identity, but my identity is music.
Mm-hmm. And when did you realize that you were going to do this professionally? And was there, avenue for you to pursue this as a professional career?
Well, it's just the dream of do what you love to do the most. I started going to the conservatory as a student, and I became a full music student, which was not very usual by chance. It's not very usual in Spain. And people, the parents always encourage you to keep having both studies and the music career and other studies. But I just decided to focus on music, and of course I don't regret. And it was little by little I started to make my first shows, to win my first competitions, to get some money, some concerts, some trips. And what I'm very happy about is that I wasn't not only a classical guitarist, but I also was a singer. I was very attached to the choral world, and still have my best friends in the choral world.
Right.
And singing opened my mind, and I saw music in very different ways. And I had the opportunity to be part of big musical projects when I was still a guitar student, to be part of professional projects as a musician, as a singer.
Mm-hmm.
And I could even get some money to keep paying my studies, and I could improve in both sides.
Right.
But at some point I had to decide, and I decided I prefer to focus on guitar.
I mean, did you have family support? I can imagine. I mean, parents, son of a immigrant, they would have wanted you to do other things.
They were very skeptical because they didn't know that I could make music. I could make a living through music, and so they were quite skeptical at the beginning. But my dad said, as long as we can afford it, we support you. And they always did,
Mm-hmm.
because I was very conscious of the economic situation of my family, so I worked very hard from the beginning, and I never asked money for them. So I paid my studies by myself, so doing spark jobs, extra jobs in the summer, and then I started to get some money through singing. It was great. It was a great experience, and it was not only music but the life experience.
Sure. Talking about economic situations, when we come back, we'll find out how Spain's, is in dire need, of course, in terms, or is struggling in terms of the financial crisis, and how the arts industry has been affected. Up next on The Bigger Picture, BFM 89.9.
You're listening to BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good afternoon. It is The Bigger Picture, and it's Mira Sivasudi. Well, with us this Monday afternoon, classical Spanish guitarist Rafael Serrallet. He actually finished a concert with the MPO over the weekend, and we're trying to find out a little bit more about Rafael. Like I mentioned earlier, Rafael, you have pioneered many social projects, and you lead the Iberian International Music Institute. What can you tell me about these projects and the institute?
Well, we have done a lot of work in many different parts of the world: South America, Central America, Morocco, Palestine, supporting different societies or conservatories and musical centers, helping them to develop the country through music and art, because I am a believer that the art and music can help the people to be better people, to be a better persons, and develop a better country.
How, Rafael? I mean, how do they become better people through music education?
Well, because music is part of the human being. Music is in us, and we have it's a necessity. The art is a necessity, a human being necessity. In the prehistoric caves, we find paintings that the prehistoric people was painting. They had a necessity to express through arts, and we know that they were using dances and singing to express, and it's a necessity. So I really believe that through the music education, we develop critique people who is able to or who want to improve, and in all the rest of the areas in our life, and it's already proved. And there are many social projects, like in Venezuela, the Simon Orchestra, Simon Bolivar Orchestra, that is helping thousands of children and finding music hope, and they can get people off the danger of being in the street in Venezuela, which is one of the most dangerous countries in the world. And we have, inspired by them, we kept working in some countries where really are very, very, very difficult. Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Morocco. Well, but Morocco is not the same. Morocco is compared with this. I mean, the violence in the streets in these countries are really, really very high.
So what would you say has been the benefit for the Moroccans?
The Moroccans were on the other side. I mean, they had a lack of they have a net of conservatories because the French influence, but sometimes they didn't have the tools to develop. So we worked trying to help with courses for the teachers in improving and enhancing the conservatories and the teachers, and because of course I'm very, very aware that the folk Arabic music was very important for them. So making work with everyone and in the folk music and the classical music, and definitely people got in music hope.
And all this was done through the Iberian International Music
Yes.
Institute, all through that, the Music Institute?
Yes.
How did you get involved in the institute?
Well, it was because my colleague David Galvez and I were touring together in different countries, invited to make concerts, and we were asked to make courses especially in developing countries. So we were invited to play in main halls, but at the same time we were invited to go to the conservatories to make workshops, classes, and we realized that it was a lack of it was a necessity for many countries to find a way to keep going in projects that could give that could develop going on project and could make something better and improve their musical institutions. And it's like we started in Morocco. That was the first country we started, and we started to spread in different other countries. And we made such a big achievements as the Youth Central American Orchestra that still is working now by itself, and we are very proud that we were the ones starting it.
Right. Any expansion plans? Are you planning to start it in other parts of the world as
well? Well, definitely, because since the Spanish financial crisis and all the public funds are failing, yes, and the budgets are being cut, and it's quite hard now, and for different reasons, of course, for personal reasons, I'd love to spread the IMI, the Iberian International Music Institute, to this part of the world, to Asia, South Asia. Why not? There are many good musicians around, and I'm sure that there are many things that could be done around.
Right. So who funds these projects?
Well, basically was funded by the Spanish government, the Spanish Corporation, and the Valencian Corporation, the state government where I come from.
And you still have backing from them financially, because, I mean, we know that Spain has been affected by the economic... It's a social crisis as well.
Yeah, it is a social crisis, and unfortunately, cooperation and culture has been one of the first things that has been cut. The budget has been cut.
You know, it's really bad, isn't it? Could you describe a little bit as to what's going on there? I mean,
yeah, believe me, it's much more expensive illiteracy than education, and arts as a part of the development of expression of the human being is necessary. Is definitely necessary. Arts and education are very, very necessary in our society. Give us values, make us human beings. And it's a necessity, and without art, I don't understand life. Without music, I don't understand life.
Yep.
And it's definitely is a necessity. It's more than a luxury, and is this democratic ideal of giving the possibility of enjoying the music to anyone.
Right, but how do you spread this education when there's, to a very large extent, chaos in the country, Rafael? I mean, you had a very somber National Day celebration because of the economic and social crisis.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan to continue educating the Spanish people about music?
Well, in Spain it's not difficult because we have the background of, and I think that everyone in Spain got the idea that music is really necessary. But sometimes it's difficult to make understand to people when there are basic necessities. That of course there is basic necessities in health and education that have to be covered first. But we shouldn't forget that besides eating, and we have to feed our soul.
Yeah.
And definitely arts and music are necessary for it.
Right. And, I was reading that although you're a classical musician, you also enjoy crossover collaborations?
Yeah, I have been collaborating with different musicians, with different cultures. I play with Tristan Maloumi, a great Moroccan oud player, and with different Arabic orchestras in different countries, and in Morocco, and also the Arabic orchestra in Bethlehem. And the experience is very good. It's a very nice experience where you share different knowledges, different point of views. And it happens every day, also in the MPO, where we all play Western music and we are supposed to, but there are different points of view, and it's very nice, and you get contagious of the other's experience.
Have you gotten acquainted with local Malaysian classical instruments?
Well, I've been in touch with Classical Guitar Society and his president Simon Cheong, and really I was invited to play and to give master classes last year. And with the MPO chamber musicians, where some of them or most of them are not from Malaysia, originally from Malaysia, but they are already living so many years in Malaysia, and they are part of the Malaysia classical music.
Any plans to own a traditional instrument or collaborate?
Yeah, I love to. Actually, I think that this multicultural society that Malaysia is, with Indian, Chinese, and Malay music, will be a very, very interesting work to do, and putting all together. And I'm looking forward to have the time to make something with them.
Right, fantastic. So, what keeps you coming back? I mean, you've come here 3 times already. What keeps you coming back?
Well, I came more than 3 times. I keep coming
every
month. It's love. It's love. It's the other engine of the world. Yeah, love. Love is what is making me come every month, every 2 months. I'm in love with it's a British girl that lives in Malaysia since 16 years ago.
I knew there would be a woman in this equation.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, she's the engine of my life. She's the one who's making me come and will keep making me come as long as we are together, and I love her very much.
Very wonderful. Now, I was reading that in 2004 you received your PhD for your thesis on the Spanish composer Manuel Palau. And why did you choose to conduct your research on him?
Well, actually, because he's a very unknown composer. It's known in Valencia, where I come from, but still his repertoire is not very well known. And this concerto, which is a masterwork for the guitar repertoire, is barely played. And I thought it was a deserved homage to the figure of Manuel Palau, and a need for the classical guitarist to have not a new because it's quite old, but a piece that is not played at all in the classical music guitar repertoire.
And you have this Concierto Levantino Allegro, which is part of your new album?
Yeah, it's just released in Spain, and with a youth orchestra in Valencia, and Manuel Galduf conducting it. and it's just released in Spain. The recording is a couple of years old, but
Right.
the CD has been just released now.
Has been released. I'm going to leave you with that song, Concierto Levantino, which is Allegro. But before that, thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you for inviting me.
You can read more about Rafael Serrallet at his website. It's serrallet.com. That is SERRALLET.com. Thank you once again, and we hope to have you back soon.
Okay, sure, you'll have me.
Rafael Serrallet, classical Spanish guitarist, and here's the Concierto Levantino Allegro on BFM 89.9.
BFM 89.9, the business station.